3 years ago, he was ruthless, a cold, untouchable millionaire CEO who believed love was weakness. When his relationship with her fell apart, he made sure she left with nothing, no money, no support, not even the dignity she deserved. He thought he'd erased her from his life completely. But time has a cruel way of circling back. One quiet afternoon, he saw her again, this time with a child. A little boy with the same stormy eyes he saw in the mirror every morning. Suddenly, the walls of arrogance he'd built began to collapse. The man who once felt untouchable was shaken to his core, because the truth standing before him wasn't just about betrayal or love lost, it was about blood, family, and the cost of his pride. That day, he realized the empire he built meant nothing compared to what he had thrown away. The world knew him as Adrian Cross, a name that echoed across skyscrapers, corporate boardrooms, and billion-dollar deals. To the outside world, he was invincible, the ruthless millionaire CEO who never lost, never faltered, never loved. But behind that cold exterior once existed a man who had given his heart to a woman named Alina. She wasn't like the women who chased him for his money or status. Alina was different, quiet, selfless, and unafraid of the walls Adrian built around himself. For a time, she was his anchor. She reminded him that life wasn't just contracts and competition. It was laughter in small apartments, the smell of coffee in the morning, the warmth of a hand held tightly in the dark. But as Adrian's empire grew, so did his arrogance. Board meetings replaced dinners. Business trips replaced anniversaries. Slowly, love turned into silence, and silence into resentment. Alina begged him to remember who he once was, but Adrian only saw her as a distraction, a reminder of the vulnerability he fought to bury. Then came the final argument. "You've changed," Alina whispered, tears glistening in her eyes. "You're not the man I fell in love with. You're colder, crueler. It's like nothing matters but your empire." Adrian stood tall, his voice a blade. "My empire is who I am. If you can't accept that, then maybe you don't belong by my side." Her heart cracked, but what shattered her completely was what he did next. In the divorce settlement, Adrian used every lawyer, every loophole, every ounce of his power to take everything from her. He left her with nothing, no home, no support, no lifeline. In his mind, it was easier this way. Clean, final, and for 3 long years, Adrian told himself he didn't care. He told himself Alina had been weak, that love was a liability, that he was better off without her. He built higher walls, climbed higher mountains, and silenced the whispers of regret with money and power. But fate has a way of waiting for the perfect moment to strike. One rainy afternoon, as Adrian left a charity gala, he saw something that made his breath hitch for the first time in years. At the edge of the street, standing beneath a broken umbrella, was Alina. She looked older, wearier, but her presence was undeniable. Beside her stood a small child, a boy, no older than 3. The boy's dark, stormy eyes locked onto Adrian, eyes Adrian had seen every day in the mirror. For the first time in his life, Adrian's world stopped. The $1 million suit he wore felt heavy, the accolades in his mind turned to ash. And the ruthless CEO, who thought he had everything, realized he may have lost it all. Adrian Cross had faced hostile takeovers, courtroom battles, and scandals that could ruin any man. Yet nothing had ever shaken him the way that fleeting moment on the rainy street did. He stood frozen, staring at Alina and the little boy, while his driver urged him into the waiting car. But Adrian couldn't move. Every drop of rain seemed to hammer a single truth into his chest. The boy's eyes weren't just familiar. They were his own. Alina noticed him then. Their eyes met across the storm. 1,000 unspoken words trapped in a silence more deafening than thunder. She didn't smile. She didn't wave. She simply tightened her grip on her son's small hand and turned away. For the first time in years, Adrian felt powerless. That night, he sat alone in his penthouse, surrounded by glass walls overlooking the city. Success was everywhere, his name carved into skyscrapers, his face on magazine covers, his wealth dripping from every polished marble surface. Yet none of it mattered. All he could see was the child's gaze, full of innocence and unspoken accusation. Was he mine? Adrian asked himself over and over. Did Alina move on? Or had she raised our child alone all these years while I destroyed her world? Memories began to surface. Memories he had buried beneath ambition. Elena's laughter, her quiet sacrifices, the way she believed in him long before the world did. And then the memory of the night he'd signed those divorce papers, watching her walk away broken while he convinced himself it was strength. That word now felt like poison. The next morning, Adrian couldn't focus at work. During board meetings, his mind wandered. Numbers blurred, voices faded, and every reflection in the glass seemed to flash the boy's storm-colored eyes back at him. Finally, he left his office and instructed his assistant, "Find her Alina, where she lives, where she works, everything." The assistant hesitated, but within hours delivered a folder thick with details. Adrian sat at his desk, hands trembling as he opened it. Alina was living in a modest neighborhood on the outskirts of the city, working two jobs, one as a teacher's aide, another waiting tables at a cafe. No mansion, no luxury, just survival. The report mentioned her son's name, Daniel Cross. Cross. Adrian's throat tightened as he traced the letters with his fingers. She had given the boy his name, even after everything he had done to her. Days passed before Adrian gathered the courage to see them again. He parked far from the cafe where Alina worked, watching from a distance. She moved quickly between tables, her smile faint but genuine, the fatigue in her eyes hidden only by strength. Then Daniel appeared running inside, waving a drawing in his small hands. Alina knelt down, embraced him, and looked at him with a warmth Adrian had never deserved it. Was then Adrian realized the truth. Alina hadn't lost everything. She had rebuilt her world around love, while he had built his around emptiness. But regret was a dangerous companion. It whispered questions he didn't want to face. What if she hates me? What if the boy doesn't know who I am? What if it's too late? Still, Adrian couldn't stay away. That night, as Alina left the cafe, holding Daniel's hand, Adrian stepped out of the shadows. His voice cracked as he spoke. "Alina," she froze. Slowly, she turned, her eyes narrowing. "What are you doing here?" I saw you," Adrian admitted, his usual commanding tone gone. "The other night, and him." His gaze flickered to Daniel. "Is he?" Elena's voice cut like ice. Don't you dare ask that." Adrian swallowed hard, his chest aching. "Please, I need to know." Elena's jaw tightened. "What you need is to walk away. You made your choice, Adrian. You took everything from me and left me with nothing. Nothing but him. And that was the only thing that saved me." Daniel looked up at his mother, confused. "Mama, who is he?" Elena hesitated, her lips trembling. She glanced at Adrian, anger battling with sorrow. Finally, she whispered, "Just someone from the past." The words sliced Adrian deeper than any courtroom loss. Over the following weeks, Adrian tried, again and again. He sent letters, gifts, even offers of financial support. Alina returned them all. What she wanted wasn't his money, it was accountability, remorse, and change. And Adrian realized that money couldn't erase 3 years of pain. He couldn't buy forgiveness. He couldn't purchase love, so he did something no one had ever seen him do. He humbled himself. He began showing up quietly at Daniel's school events, never approaching, just watching from afar. He donated anonymously to the school, ensuring smaller class sizes, better books, healthier meals. He visited the cafe not to confront Alina, but to sit silently in a corner, tipping generously while respecting her distance. People whispered, why was Adrian Cross, the ruthless billionaire, spending his nights in a modest cafe, watching a single mother and her child? But Adrian didn't care. For the first time in his life, he wasn't living for headlines. He was living for redemption. One evening, after Daniel's school play, Alina finally approached him. Her eyes were still cautious, but softer now. "You keep showing up," she said quietly. Adrian nodded. "Because I need to. Not for me, for him, and for you. I was wrong, Alina. I was selfish, blind, cruel. I thought power made me whole, but all it did was make me empty. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't even deserve it. But I need you to know I see what I did. And I regret it every single day." Alina studied him for a long moment, searching for the man she once loved. Finally, she said, "Regret isn't enough. Adrian, if you want to be in his life, you'll have to prove you've changed. Not with money, not with words, with actions." Adrian's voice was steady. "Then that's what I'll do." For the first time, Alina didn't turn away. And for Adrian, that single act a pause. A possibility felt like the first crack of light in a life that had been drowning in shadows. But deep down, he knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy. Regret had brought him here. Redemption would demand everything else. The silence in the room felt unbearable. The CEO stood frozen, his eyes locked on the little girl who clung to her mother's dress with innocent curiosity. Her presence was undeniable proof of what he had lost. She had his eyes he saw, in the mirror every morning. For years, he had convinced himself that wealth could replace love, that power was enough to bury regret, but at this moment, none of his titles, none of his millions, none of his skyscrapers could shield him from the truth. He had taken everything from the woman he once loved, and yet she had built a new life, a life without him. "Why are you here?" she asked, her voice calm, but firm. He swallowed hard, his throat dry. I didn't know," he admitted, his voice shaking. "I didn't know about her. About the child." Her lips pressed into a thin line. "You didn't care to know," she replied. "You made your choice 3 years ago. You took everything from my stability, my dignity, and then you left me to rebuild from nothing." The little girl tilted her head, her innocent eyes moving between her mother and the tall stranger standing in their home. "Mama, who is he?" she whispered. Her mother froze, pain flashing across her face. Before she could respond, the CEO took a slow step forward. His voice cracked as he said, I'm someone who should have been there. I'm someone who failed you." Tears burned in his eyes, but the little girl only blinked at him with confusion. She didn't know who he was. To her, he was just a stranger. "Don't confuse her," the mother snapped sharply, shielding her child behind her. "You don't get to walk in after years and demand answers." The CEO's chest tightened. "I'm not here to demand anything," he said softly. "I just want to make things right. Please, let me try." Flashback of regret as he stood there. Memories of their past flooded his mind, the way she used to wait for him after long meetings. The way she believed in his vision when no one else did. She had been there before the millions, before the empire, when he was just an ambitious man chasing dreams. And how had he repaid her? By breaking her trust, by stripping her of everything when their marriage crumbled. By turning love into a battlefield. His heart ached with the weight of every mistake. The mother's pain. She looked at him, her eyes filled with both anger and sorrow. "Do you have any idea what I went through?" she asked. "You left me with nothing. I was pregnant, alone, humiliated. Do you know how many nights I cried myself to sleep, wondering if I'd even survive?" Her words sliced through him like knives. He bowed his head in shame. "I know I can't undo what I did," he whispered. "But please, I don't want to lose more years. I want to be here for her, and for you." Her hands trembled, but her voice remained steady. "And what happens when you decide again that money is more important than people? What happens when you grow tired and walk away again? I can't let you break her heart the way you broke mine." The little girl tugged at her mother's hand, sensing the heaviness in the air. "Mama, it's okay," she said innocently. "Don't be sad." The mother knelt down, hugging her tightly, tears spilling down her cheeks. The CEO stood silently, watching the scene, his chest aching with a longing he could no longer ignore. The moment of truth. Taking a deep breath, he dropped to his knees, lowering himself to the little girl's height. "I don't deserve your trust," he said gently, "but if you let me, I'll spend every day trying to earn it. I promise I won't leave again." The little girl tilted her head, her young mind too innocent to understand promises, betrayals, or regrets. She simply asked, "Do you like ice cream?" He blinked, stunned. Then, despite the tears in his eyes, he laughed softly. "Yes, I love ice cream." Her smile broke through the tension in the room. "Me too." For a brief moment, the heaviness lifted. Forgiveness, or final goodbye. The mother watched quietly, her heart torn. She had spent years hating him, resenting him, yet seeing him kneel before their daughter, seeing genuine remorse in his eyes, stirred emotions she thought she had buried long ago. Could people truly change? Could the man who once destroyed her world now be the man to heal it? She whispered, softly, almost to herself, "I don't know if I can forgive you." He looked up at her, his voice steady. "Then don't forgive me. Just let me prove I'm not the same man anymore. Give me the chance to stand beside her. That's all I ask." The final decision. The room went silent again. She looked at him for what felt like an eternity, her mind a storm of anger, love, and uncertainty. Then, finally, she said, "One chance. That's all you get. If you fail this time, there's no coming back." The CEO nodded, tears streaming down his face. "I won't fail you again, I swear." The little girl smiled, oblivious to the gravity of the moment. "Can we get ice cream now?" she asked cheerfully. Both adults exchanged a look, her mother's cautious, his desperate but hopeful, and for the first time in years, there was a glimmer of something neither of them expected to feel again. Hope life doesn't always give second chances, but when it does, what you do with them defines who you are. This story of heartbreak, betrayal, and redemption reminds us that love cannot be bought with money, nor can time be replaced with wealth. True value lies in the moments we choose to protect, the people we choose to fight for, and the family we choose to cherish. The millionaire CEO thought he had everything, but only when he lost it all did he realize the truth. Success without love is nothing but emptiness. His journey is a lesson for us all. Never take those who stand by you for granted, because one day, you may find yourself standing alone, drowning in regret. If this story touched your heart, share it with others, because sometimes, a story is all it takes to remind us of what truly matters.